Are you in an unhealthy relationship? A toxic relationship? A dead-end relationship? Well, something needs to change, right? Relationships are necessary for us human beings to feel fulfilled and validated in this one human experience that we have. However, dysfunction is something that we can always work on. If you're willing to find out how, stay tuned. Here with the detail, Ramon Phipps. Relationships is a can of worms that everyone is going to open at one point in time in their life. Whether you're talking your platonic relationship with your friends, your professional relationships with your coworkers, or your more intimate romantic relationships with your loved ones. Relationships are always going to be there. Human beings need relationships to thrive and survive. However, oftentimes we always end up with these dysfunctions in our relationships. My father is a hothead. My mother is overprotective. My lover, he just doesn't understand me. My girlfriend is way too emotional. These factors of a relationship are problematic because eventually we start to just internalize, desensitize, and rationalize to ourselves that these things are common and normal when they are not. Showcases of emotional dysfunction in relationships is a commonality that we will all witness in our life. However, the problem with this is that people who have dysfunctional emotions bring these into relationships, creating dysfunctional relationships. So if I have dysfunctional emotions or an inability to tolerate stress or problems with emotional regulation, and I bring this into a relationship, well, I am causing the issues in the relationship. Point blank, simple. Now, you're here for a reason. You're here to learn how to transform dysfunction into functional relationships. And this is possible, and it's quite easy. However, the undertakings that we must go on individually, that is where the hard, overwhelming mountain that we look at to climb starts to become a little bit daunting for us. Don't be afraid, guys, because there are only 4 main pillars to what a secure, healthy relationship looks like. And I'll explain it in this very brief video today. Pillar number 1, compassion. Compassion, I believe, is an innate human characteristic, something that we can all practice. Compassion is the ability to practice kindness. That's generally it. Now, kindness, you might ask yourself, well, it's not hard for me to be kind, but you might actually see in your dysfunctional relationships, people, yes, there are some boundaries towards you practicing kindness in the relationship. For example, if you get called a good for nothing by your father, if you get called worthless, loser by your mother, if you get called not good enough by your lover, then these things in themselves will be like boundaries that only invoke negative emotions, feelings within us, and of course, those abilities to see through the lens of compassion, it starts to die down. And we don't do this purposely, guys. We do this because generally, most people are emotionally unintelligent, meaning that they do not have an ability to practice that self-awareness to help them make it through stressful situations like this. So when kindness goes out the door, what then replaces that? Well, anger, animosity, frustration, self-absorbed ways of thinking, feeling, and behaving. Kindness is innate. And we have the ability to practice this at any given time. Why do we choose not to, however? Well, oftentimes, we find it hard to even be kind towards ourselves, especially when you're ripe with dysfunction in your relationship, when you have lived in dysfunction for long periods of time, relationship after relationship after relationship. Kindness and compassion becomes almost a tool that certain people can utilize towards people-pleasing behaviors. Again, to get what you want accomplished out of a situation, but also kindness, it can be utilized as a tool for change towards a greater good in the relationship. In the future of this video, I'll explain how all these major pillars connect to each other in order to compound themselves into a new, beautiful doorway that we all can walk through towards healthier, more prosperous relationships. Pillar number 2. Now, if it were up to me, and if I lived in, I would say, a different world, maybe I would get this word tattooed across my forehead. Honesty. In a lot of relationships, most dysfunction, most problems, most arguments, most conflicts are going to start from lying, cheating, manipulating, and the practice of secrecy and privacy. These things only create bridges between you and another individual, where you are holding on to a truth that the other person does not know. Now, white lies are just white lies, guys. I'm not talking about, oh, well, I ate the last cookie, or I took $5 from the bank account because I needed to, buy my lottery and I didn't tell my wife. It's not the white lies we're worried about here. It's the substantial lies. The lies that we have a hard time actually telling somebody because of uncomfortable emotions, because of the fear towards a response, because of that uncertainty that just continues to fester within us as to what might actually happen if I were to tell the truth. But your moral compass, the value system that's deeply embedded in there, is going to be honesty. You all start off with telling the truth, or wanting to tell the truth, or at least learning that telling the truth is an appropriate behavior. But life happens, and then we get into lying behaviors. That is also what needs to change. If we are going to be practicing honesty and transparency in our relationship, then there should be no truth out there, except for maybe a surprise that you have for your lover or your friend. There should be no truth out there that we're not willing to communicate to the person that we love, that we care about, that we are entangled with. This person deserves to know the truth, especially if in regards to your emotions or maybe a troubling situation in your life. But ask yourself this, if you don't believe me, what happens when you keep secrets? How do you feel when you keep secrets? Do you get guilty? Do you get shameful when that secret is very big, overwhelming, and just weighing on your chest? Because you do that to yourself. You choose to keep your tongue in your mouth. You choose to practice lying and manipulation. You choose to invoke dysfunction in your relationship because you are so uncomfortable in telling the truth. The thing about truth telling is that the more and more we do this, the more and more it becomes habit, and the more we create a healthier environment for ourselves to live in this world. What do I actually mean by that? Well, I can tell one lie, I can tell another lie, I can tell another lie, another lie, another lie, another lie, another lie, and then here I am having to navigate through a web of lies after a couple days, weeks, months, or years of just telling lies after lies after lies. Now that is pressure. That is uncomfortable, and that will only incite me to continue the same behavior, because if I get away with the lie, it conditions my mind to say, hey, this is a good approach, a coping mechanism even, for you to get over that stressful situation. But telling the truth, you may recognize that that's one of the hardest things to do. And I want you to kind of focus. If you're really looking to put this into practice, focus first and foremost on being able to tell the truth about your feelings. Because when we're talking about healthy relationship, we connect best through our feelings. Everyone understands feelings. You know what it's like to hate, to feel anger, to feel guilt, to feel depression, sadness, to feel jealousy, to feel ambivalence, to feel joy and excitement. You guys know all of these emotions because you've experienced them yourself. So if you're now looking to bridge the gap that you've created because of lies that's only been cultivating dishonesty, secrecy, and privacy, then the truth is not what sets you free, because you might be on the hook for something after you tell the truth, but it brings you closer together and at least gives you that opportunity to create transparency. The biggest fear that somebody who cares about you has, or maybe the person that you care about, the biggest fear that's in their mind is that they are worried about how you may respond or how they may respond to the truth. But that shouldn't be a worry anymore, because the truth is what's going to shine light on the lies. And the lies, they're kept down deep down inside. And if they are kept deep down inside, then likely they go unresolved. And that changes our mind over the course of time. You don't want to condition yourself continuously to be a liar, because you are better than that. To be somebody who tells the truth, or to help your relationships cultivate more truth telling, it starts off again with us. But pillar number 2, trust only comes from honesty and transparency. And if we know anything, trust is one of those things that are very easy to harm in a relationship. How do we get back to the point where we're willing to be trustful towards others? We start off with honesty. Pillar number 3, one of my favorites, empathy. So empathy is the ability to put yourself in the shoes of another person. And this trails very well off from pillar number 2, honesty, and transparency. To be able to put yourself in the shoes of another person is a lot to ask for. You can never see things from another person's perspectives, realistically. And I remember when I was in post-secondary and I was in this trauma-oriented class that was going through a particular discussion about women who were abused or were in abusive relationships. And I raised my hand to the professor and I was asking the question, "Professor, how am I supposed to connect to an abused woman? I'm a man. I've never experienced abuse in my life to the degree that women may have from other males." Of course, I've been hit. I've gone through my things, and I'll tell those stories in future videos. But I could never relate to the perspectives of an abused woman. And then she said something to me. She said, "Well, Ramon, do you know what anger is? Do you know what fear is? Do you know what shame is? Do you know what guilt is?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I've experienced all of that throughout my life and then some." Well, that's how you start to build empathy. You don't focus on the story, you focus on the experience. And if you allow honesty and truth to cultivate empathy in your relationships, well guys, again, that only brings you closer together. That's all you're trying to do when you're thinking about a healthy, secure attachment with somebody. Understanding each other. And for the final pillar, this one might rub people the wrong way. Because again, we are so invested in tradition, cultural norms, the beliefs of the world. This is what we call the worldview that we think are right. Guys, throw that out the door for a moment, because without equality as a pillar in your relationship, then there is no healthy relationship. Equality is the equal standing of you and another individual. And I mean that across the board. Whether it's man towards woman in a heterosexual relationship, whether it's father towards child, whether it's brother towards sister. All of that, friend to friend, boss to coworker, these things must see the representation of equality because it highlights our ability to be respectful towards another individual. If I'm so stuck in my traditionalist ways of thinking and saying that I'm the man, I'm the protector, the provider, the hero of my overall clan, then that mentality in itself is going to lead me away from looking at my other units in this social system as equal beings. I'm going to feel way too overinvested in the need to protect. I'm going to feel way too overinvested in the need to be that person that I think I need to be, but strays away from equality, meaning my equal standing with somebody else. If my significant other wants to pay for dinner, I will let them pay for dinner. I prefer to, that's just how I was raised, but I will let them pay for dinner because they make their own money and they can make their own decisions. They live their own life and I am just a witness to that. If I'm able to now see that I can't control somebody else, nor should I ever try to control another human being, then what can I fall down to in regard to my acceptance? Well, if I look at equality, and I really want to see that in my relationship, sometimes I'm gonna have to swallow my ego and swallow my pride and practice humility. Because if respect comes from us looking at each other as equals, then that means that I might not always be right, and I might not always need to be right in a relationship. I might not always be somebody who is the most open and the most vulnerable. I might not even want to see that in my relationships. But guys, this is what creates healthy foundations for us to be truthful, honest, compassionate, loving, caring, respectful of one another. With these 4 pillars, with this foundation of your newly found healthy perspective towards the relationship, the next time somebody flips out or gets angry, you're going to be able to look at that situation with much more awareness, meaning that your response will change. And if you then utilize that tool of compassion to see these negative situations with kindness, the stress that affects you will be highly reduced. Or it might not even be there the same way it was in the past. And on the flip side, if you're willing to practice these things, being that vulnerable, honest person, being somebody who looks at the other individual, whoever that might be, with equality and respect and compassion, being this new character that only helps to cultivate healthy attitudes in the relationship, then eventually you will see reciprocation. But you really have to want this, because relationships are not going to change just because you want them to change. We must put the work in. So we just spoke about quite a bit, and hopefully from these very brief messages that I mentioned in the video, you're able to now see what a healthy relationship looks like, but more importantly, how to work towards a secure attachment with someone. I would want to do a whole series on attachment style, but I need to know if you actually want to hear that. So drop some comments down below, like, subscribe, share this video, and I will do a whole series on attachment styles from childhood to, of course, adult attachment styles, which will add a lot more value to what I've been speaking about in this video alone. This has been the Detailed Ramon Phipps. I hope you got something from this video today. Thank you very much for visiting. Thank you so much for visiting today to watch this video. I hope that you got a great message from it. I definitely tried very hard. If you're interested in content that's more so focused on guided meditations, open talks like these about your mental health and emotional wellness, or even educational workshops, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe for more videos. And of course, share this content to anybody that you believe this will bring value to. This has been The Detail, Ramon Phipps. Have a great day. What?